radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. That's Fission, F-I-S-S-I-O-N, as in Fukushima, since Fukushima, we're now living in the age of fission, although our good friend Thomas Ackerman says he thinks it started when they first split the atom, so perhaps he's right. Today we have with us Shazizz. Yay, we're finally connected, so I'm just going to cut to the chase so we can keep our full hour. Thanks, Shazizz, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, you sound a little distant, a little bit farther than where you were before.
How do I sound now?
A little bit better. That sounds good. So tell our listeners exactly who you are and what you do and what your interest is and what you're attempting to do to bring to our planet.
Well, a long time ago, they made this claim out there that the world was heating up due to carbon emissions and such, and that we needed to save the planet. So I came out to answer the call because I've been a science geek ever since, I was a little kid. And science has always fascinated me, and I always look out there. I see things in a mechanical view, and I can understand things a little bit different than, say the average Joe. And so basically what I do is I go out there, I look at a problem such as the way that we use energy. We're right now using energy in such an inefficient manner. We're still boiling water, for Pete's sakes. But this time around, we're using highly refined radioactive material to do so. It's not necessary. Once you understand the physics of water and heat, heat would be normally considered a bad thing, as far as electronics and electrical devices and stuff like that, because everything out there has a thermal breakdown point. So when your electric fan fails, it's because the insulation on that fan finally met its thermal breakdown point because it got too hot. You ever put your hand on the back of a fan and felt that warm heat on there?
Yeah.
Well, if the plastic outside of it's pretty warm, then that means that core of that thing is really warm. And there's an insulation that's on the top of the copper wire that basically insulates each one of those turns from each other so that you can create a stronger magnetic field to run that device. Well, after you run it for several hours or days or whatever constant, the temperature keeps building up due to friction and resistance in the wire from the type of current that we use, and eventually that will reach that thermal breakdown temperature where that insulation will fail, and then that device will fail. There's materials and chemistry out there that we could literally build electric motors that would never fail. But
so why don't we do that?
Well, they want to make some money off it. They got this thing called planned obsolescence. You make a light bulb that'll last 100 years, you can't sell very many light bulbs, so they make them,
Right.
you know, not as good. I've got in my possession one of the original Edison bulbs. That thing to this day still works.
Wow.
He was making them good. So if you think about how long ago Edison was around and how old that bulb is, we're talking over 100 years, and this bulb is still ticking.
Wow.
And so if they took something from his design and actually made the tungsten element in there better, thicker, or whatever, they could literally make an incandescent light bulb that would last for, shoot, ever. As long as that vacuum doesn't leak out, whatever. The reason why that tungsten element is able to burn so hot inside there is because it's inside a vacuum. That keeps it from burning in half once you hook your power to it. But if you crack that glass on there, instantaneously that tungsten wire will get too hot and burn in half. That's where everything fails. But there are people that have designed bulbs out there that will last forever. Fluorescent bulb is a prime example. If you never ever break that vacuum on that fluorescent bulb, even after you can't use it in the normal light socket, you can still energize that with a high frequency voltage. Inside the ends of those fluorescent bulbs are tungsten elements that are essentially preheaters for the gas inside that bulb. Once you get that gas heated up, then it's easier to send a high voltage inside there and energize that gas into the fourth state of matter, being plasma, which gives you the visible light because of the material that they paint inside the bulb. It has a phosphorescent kind of paint inside there, and the UV light from the plasma is actually energizing that material and causing the visible light that you see on your in your rooms and stuff. And so if you literally encased one of those bulbs into, let's say, some 2-part epoxy resin or some clear acrylic resin, made that thing to where that vacuum could never escape from that, you could use that thing for a ball bat and it would still light up. And we'd have light bulbs that would last forever. And it's just because of the way that they're designed. But they're designed to fail at some point. Those tungsten elements in the ends will eventually fail, and you'll notice there's a black ring right at the very edge of each of these bulbs, and then the bulb will start to flicker a little bit, and then it'll basically stop. And then you go out and buy another one for $8 or $10.
Yeah.
They make a lot of money by making
bulbs are really an interesting thought because, I don't know where you're at, but where I'm at, it's hard to find regular light bulbs. They want us to buy these LED light bulbs. So you have to go to certain stores here, like, the West, they're all about renewable. Like, I swear to God, if you're not composting in Eugene, somebody looks at you as if you're like a freak. You know what I mean? So it's all about like, you got to be sustainable and blah, 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 blah. And the light bulbs is a big issue because I don't like the LED light bulbs. I don't like the light. There's something about them. I don't know if there's anything negative about them scientifically, but I don't like them. They don't feel good. There's something about them that doesn't make me feel right. So I like to use regular light bulbs.
Well, energy-wise, they do use a whole lot less energy, but in lighting-wise, it is definitely a different light. But I took a 12-volt headlight that was burnt out, right? And the reason why I like this particular type of energy that I'm talking about is I was able to light up a burnt-out headlamp off of a car. The tungsten element was broke, but the frequency of the high voltage that I sent through there, I was actually using this doggone bulb as a spark gap for a Tesla coil, for a vacuum spark gap. But the frequency is able to ionize the air inside the bulb and literally jump across to the other side of that broken element and vibrate it and still light it up. So even one that's completely burnt out can still be lit up. And the best thing about high frequency energy is that you you can generate it really simple, really easy. It's easier to ramp the voltage up than it is to ramp the current up. I got in trouble because I told everybody that I didn't care about current watts and amps because what I was working on had nothing to do with that. Those measures of math don't apply with the type of technology that I'm trying to show people. It only applies from the time I bring that energy back to a usable state, and then you start running those inefficient appliances again. That's when your measurements will take place. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but Shazizz, don't you think that the people that mass produce these products for the general masses, that they most likely know about your technology and are squashing it? Don't you think
Sure
that?
they do. Sure they
I mean,
do.
it's not like they don't. If I mean, it's not. It's as you say. It's not. It's not that difficult to comprehend. So I'm sure they have it. So there's a financial incentive for them to never give it to us, right? Because then it's just renewable. They can't keep making money off of us.
Sure they do. They have. Look, if a guy like me in the crummy lab situation that I got can figure this kind of stuff out, then I know that with the immaculate labs that they got, that they've already figured this out. Energy. It doesn't matter what frequency range it is. It doesn't matter. All energy is the same. Heat can be stored. Heat energy can be stored. High voltage energy can be stored. Static electricity can be stored, and all of it can be changed. See, they're always arguing about, oh, well, you can never get out more than you put in. Well, I'm not trying to get out more than I put in. I'm trying to show the world a more efficient way. Imagine right now the automobile is only 36% efficient. You waste most of your fuel that goes in your car goes out the exhaust. And so if it's only 36% efficient, then there's a whole lot of room for improvement. If I can make this thing 100% efficient, that means you pay less in fuel. The same thing applies with electricity. If I can make electricity 100% efficient, then that means you pay less in electrical costs. And that's all I'm trying to show people how to do. Like, one of the biggest drawbacks that all the alternative energy community has is what they call Lenz's law. When you induce a current in a coil of wire, you produce a second magnetic field that comes around and interacts with that first one and starts to act like a brake. The more light bulbs you turn on, the harder the generator has to work, and then eventually there's a shutoff point where it won't produce anymore. Well, if you understand that law of physics, then you understand how to invoke that law of physics. And essentially what we've been doing all this time is we've been taking a generator, we spin it up with a gasoline engine or a steam engine or whatever type of fuel source we're going to use. We spin it up and we start to try to pull energy off of that generator. Well, the moment we do that, as soon as we turn that light bulb on, we invoke Lenz's law, because once those electrons start to leave that generator, they make a direct path through your light bulb right back into the same generator that you're trying to pull energy off of, which creates a second field. And the more light bulbs you put on, the larger the path that you put available for those electrons to flow, then the harder that generator has to work, and eventually too many light bulbs and the generator shuts down. So my technology takes that energy away from the generator, puts it into a completely different state of matter, completely different energy, such as plasma. You take any of the noble gases, you energize it into the fourth state of matter, that's plasma. You get visible light off of it, and you get heat off of it. But what you don't get is that Lenz effect that you would normally get by running that directly to that generator. You're changing that energy to a completely different form of energy. Now, the next step would be to change that energy back into usable current that you could then, in turn, on the other side, run without affecting that generator speeding up or slowing down because it's under a load. So essentially, it's taking energy off the generator to it. If it says it can produce 2,500 watts, then it will produce 2,500 watts. As it stands, if you look at the ratings on any generator, it might say it's a 5,000 peak generator, but it only goes up to maybe 3,500 or 4,000 watts running normally under a load. That's because that generator has to work harder. So the laws of physics say you can't destroy energy and you can't get out more than you put in, but what it does say is that you can change that energy to a completely different form. And we haven't violated any of the known laws of physics. It's all based on exact science. It's been proven. The example that I give people is if you go back and look at the mercury arc rectifier, it was a brilliant piece of engineering back then. And if they'd have known back then what we know now, there wouldn't be no nuclear power plants, because they would have used that process to boil water in a more efficient and more cheap, more safe manner than what they do when they put highly radioactive rods into water to boil them.
Yes, but they couldn't have used them for nuclear weapons, right? The waste wouldn't have made nuclear weapons. What?
They couldn't have used them for weapons of war unless they modified the frequency coming out and made some sort of death ray or something. No, but it'd be safe. But
well, I don't think that's the measure. Like, I think that's the false assumption that we all have about nuclear, is that they wanted to make them safe. I don't think they had any regard about safety. I think that's what we're seeing now. The general meme of what the people who are sort of running the show, they don't care about safety. What they care about is profit, period. Profit. It's the only thing that matters.
It's the bottom line with every single industry out there. They're there to
and without regard to human life. Like in every article I've ever read about really any technology, there's never discussion about the effect on humans, like or our Earth, or how detrimental. It's always about how much does it cost. It really speaks volumes when you look at the underlying message. It says we don't matter. I mean,
that mercury arc rectifier was, as far as I know, the very first plasma reactor in existence. It took a little pool of mercury, which is liquid metal, and at certain temperatures will, start to boil and then vaporize and such. They shot high voltage AC from Tesla's generators into it, which superheated that mercury, vaporized it into gas, and the high voltage AC continued to come in, energize that mercury vapor into the fourth state of matter, being plasma, which pressurized the tube so that none of the electron flow could come back in the other direction. And so therefore they made the very first diode rectifier DC current out the other side. And they were doing it in the late 1800s.
Well, Shazizz, this speaks to the masses. Like, that maybe this is why they didn't use it, because how do you get that out to the masses? Like, how do you get that out to people all in big cities where there's millions of people in one city? We'd have to have some kind of a grid, right? Like we have now, we have a grid.
Yeah. And anybody out there who's got a fluorescent bulb inside their house has a plasma reactor inside their house already.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what a fluorescent bulb is. It's a plasma reactor. That's all it is. It basically energizes a little tiny drop of mercury inside that, basically energizes that and makes it into a gas state, and then energizes that same gas to produce certain like UV rays inside that, which then in turn interacts with the phosphorescence inside the bulb. Neon signs, same thing. But as far as the power grid, you could literally send this signal right over the top of any existing power grid. All right, high frequency.
Wow.
you could run AC current and high frequency at the identical same time, right over the top of it. Matter of fact, each one of these power lines out here are producing about 7,000 volts at a high frequency so that they can send them as far. On your pole, you have what some people call a pig pole or a transformer. Basically, all that is a combination capacitor / step-down transformer that brings that high-frequency energy back down into usable energy so that you can run anywhere from a 200 amp service or 100 amp service, single or dual or even triple phase electrical. And it's a scam how they do it. I mean, you get paid because a little meter spins around, and the more the strength of the magnetic field gets stronger, the faster that thing spins around and racks the numbers up on you, and you end up having to pay.
Oh, you have no idea. Like
Yeah.
out here, they charge, like for me, because I live alone, they basically charge me more. They have a set quota that they allow everybody, each person. And then if you use more than that, you pay double the normal fee.
Yep.
So a
Well, if
lot of
you
times, about a third of my bill every month is about double the fee. And there's no negotiating out on it. It's just like that's, and even here, like the whole thing, the way they set it up, like uh, even us having to use nuclear energy, we don't want nuclear energy in Oregon, and we're forced to do it when we don't need it at all. We buy 8% of Columbia Generating Station's nuclear energy, so it's a complete. Do you think that they're actually just setting this up and maximizing the profits, and then when the system when it just becomes too burdensome, or can they do this in perpetuity?
well, they could jump from what they're doing right now to what I'm talking about overnight. It wouldn't even
Sounds
be.
like it.
Look, here's the thing. If you understand water, how water works, and if you understand how heat works and how high frequency voltage can literally burn through the insulation of the wire because it's not contained like your average electricity. And so that right out of the gate kind of sounds, oh no, I don't want you to burn my house down, but I'm not talking about burning your house down. If you know how to transmit it, you do it in your TV set all the time. Your TV's got a high voltage transformer inside of it. But you can literally generate enough heat with plasma to boil water. With my last video that I put out there, I was talking about how I got a thermal siphon, and I was actually pumping water without no electric pump. I was just using the heat off of the plasma arc to heat up the water that was being circulated through a couple containers. And so there's plenty of ways to use this energy. If you built a larger version of what I'm talking about and use noble gases like argon is what I use in mine, you can energize that argon into the plasma state, which, if it's according to science, light is heat and heat is light, vice versa. And so if you can visibly see it, you know you got heat. Well, it don't take much. I was basically heating water with 30 milliamps. All right. And normally your hot water heater has at least a 1500 watt element in there. That's a big difference in power input. I'm running this off of a 12 volt car battery. Actually, this is probably lawn and garden, little lead acid battery, but I'm running a 20,000 volt oil burner igniter off of a battery, and the output side of it is at 20,000 volts at 30 milliamps. And I could actually do it a lot easier than that. The way that they even make these oil burner igniters, they make them to fail because they're so afraid that you're going to steal their technology that they encase the circuitry in this like black tar looking stuff. And so if you ever try to dismantle it to reverse engineer it, you'll tear all the parts apart and you won't be able to read no numbers or color codes off of them. And they do this deliberately so that when it generates too much heat from the draw on there, that those parts will fail. Well, if I could build that same circuit to where it had its own cooling mechanism that would allow that to never get past its thermal breakdown point, that circuit would last forever. There ain't no way for it to fail. And so with that said, it's planned obsolescence in that Beckett oil burner igniter. Those things cost 60 to 80 bucks a piece. And if you had to replace those on a regular basis, that'd be ridiculous. So if you understand how water functions, if you go in your kitchen, majority of all the people around have a microwave oven in their doggone kitchen.
Unfortunately, that's true.
Yeah, you can literally take 120 volts AC, run it through a transformer. That's how the old ones worked. They had a transformer. Now they got more like a transistor type of deal going on. But nonetheless, you take the 120 volts AC out of your wall, goes through a primary coil, which induces a current in the secondary coil, and then ramps that voltage up to about 2,000 volts. That 2,000 volts basically goes through the equivalence of a light bulb that has a magnet on one side and a magnet on the other side to literally guide electron flow in one direction only. When it gets inside that, the equivalence of a light bulb, there's a tungsten element inside there that gets red hot. It's like a light bulb. You can't see it. It's all in a vacuum and surrounded by metal, so you don't get no stray microwaves out the back. But once it's inside that vacuum, those electrons start to spin rapidly and work their way towards what would be the antenna on the other side. They get trapped up in little waveguides, which causes them to spin even faster. And then basically radio wave is transmitted out of an antenna that's pointed inside your microwave oven, which in turn is guided into where your food's at. Water is a dipole molecule. It has a positive and a negative on there. So as that wave is going through its north and south peaks, which is really fast, super short wave, going through, and it rocks the water molecule so rapidly that it produces friction, which in turn produces heat. And if you think about what's going on right there, you could build the equivalence of a microwave oven to boil the same water that they're using radioactive material to do. And properly designed, you could do this process without hardly any energy input. It's ridiculous. I mean, we got access to just amazing amounts of energy. And when I talk like this to people, they get so doggone frustrated. Did I lose you? I saw you go blank there for a second. Hello? Uh-oh. Anyway, I'll just keep talking for a second. When I talk to people like this, they get so doggone frustrated because the school book doesn't say. And once they're stuck in that school book, instead of being outside the box, it is a nightmare to try to explain them to see something differently than what the school book said. So the type of energy that I'm talking about, plasma technology, is based on proven science, doesn't defy any of the known laws of physics, and is so easy to understand and to accomplish. I don't know if we lost you there. I'm going to have to check. Yeah. I think I might have the radio show all to myself. Hi, everybody. Oh, wow. This ain't good. Anyway, people are still listening to me. I don't want to destroy our podcast, so I'm going to keep on talking even if ain't nobody hearing. If we really wanted to, we the people really wanted to, we could make this technology work. Energy is all around us. We have access to thermoelectrics, hydroelectrics, static electrics. It just goes on and on, even solar and wind, you know, and there's like pros and cons for everything. But if you design a generating system to literally utilize every bit of what nature has to offer in the most environmental friendly manner, then you could have all the energy you wanted. There's no reason why you can't have the comforts, air conditioning and heating that you need, and be able to keep your food cool, and your the same comforts you've been accustomed to. It's so simple, so ridiculously simple. You don't have to use highly radioactive rods in order to boil water. I mean, they were doing it with steam and coal, and even back in those days, if you'd seen some of the plumes coming off of old trains and stuff like that, you'd freaked out. The environmentalists of today would probably have a stroke if they saw some of them trains. But once you understand science and the physics of carbon and everything like that, yeah, you'd probably breathe a little bit easier as long as you wasn't standing right next to that doggone train. They don't teach kids that stuff in school. They don't tell you about theory being theory. If you understand that scientific theory is just that, it's based on scientific observation, and you develop a theory from everything you've observed, but that doesn't mean that that's exactly what's going on. If you understand anything about heat and water, those are two of the most powerful forces that nature has available. And no matter how hard you try, you can't destroy water. Even their own laws of physics say energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can be moved around, and that's all we do is move energy from one place to the next. That's it. It's as simple as that. The electrical wires outside your house, those are railroad tracks for energy. The coils of wires inside of all your devices are electrical wires. The semiconductors and transistors and resistors and diodes are nothing more than valves and pressure devices that raise and lower voltage and current and detect one another. It's so ridiculously simple when you understand what's going on with all that. So, if the people ever got to the point where they would have a little bit of faith in people that had some knowledge and understanding of things and could explain it in a simple way that everybody could understand it, we wouldn't have these problems. The internal combustion engine being only 36% efficient, ain't no reason for that. And if we're ever to make it into a higher state of being and work in harmony with nature, it's going to require that we, the people, get serious about it. You know, you got a goldfish in a bowl, and that goldfish does its natural business in that bowl. Eventually, the water will become so acidic that the alkaline and everything will burn his gills, his or hers, whatever the case may be. Will burn the gills of the fish, and the fish won't be able to breathe, and the fish will go belly up, and then you'll have a moment of silence as you flush it down the toilet. Or maybe you can bury it out in the yard, unless you got cats. But nonetheless, without some sort of outside influence to change that water and filter that water out, then that goldfish's days is numbered. That's basically the equivalence of humanity. We need to be that outside influence. We need to be more responsible where we put things. Nature has the capability of breaking down any chemical out there under the sun. But you got to allow nature the time to do the work that is necessary in order to bring that material back to its natural state. And mankind is kind of like just in a hurry or just doesn't realize. I don't know what more to say. I'm trying to point out something to the world that the world probably already knows. That's why I call my channel Mad Science, because it just makes me mad. I'm sitting back and I'm watching craziness go on. And there's a simple solution to it if you really want to go for it. There's a lot of scam artists in the alternative energy community. A lot of disinformation and a lot of, I don't know what they would classify as a government shill or whatever. Somebody that just doesn't want you to know the truth about energy production. And I don't care, I'll argue till I'm blue in the face. Energy is free because you're surrounded in it. May very well be the case that Newton was wrong, and things that are even gravity might be different. It was all a theory. Everything that had to do with science out there was all theoretical. They don't teach the kids in school to think outside the box. This is how we believe that things work, but there's a potential that, with more observation, we might find out something different. And if you understand mechanics of how things work, you can formulate your own theories, and you can test those theories, and you make them reality. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking on these computers right now. Somebody took that to the extreme and made it happen. That's all I'm talking about. The average Joe taking it to the extreme and making it happen. Right now, we have the capabilities to literally resolve every single issue on this planet. But if the governments aren't interested in doing it, and the corporations aren't interested in doing it, business and industry and energy, oil, electrical, all the money makers of the world, if they're not interested in it, then it's up to the last standing, the last line of the defense, we the people. You don't even have to tear down their system in order to start building a new one. You just need to start understanding that sometimes you got things right around you that they put in your hand that you could utilize to generate electricity or whatever. And for every light bulb you take off their grid, that's more money in your pocket, in your piggy bank. If you network together and utilize all your resources helping each other out, you can build a system right alongside their system that will eventually make their system obsolete. That's not science fiction, that's science fact. Inside of a Fisher and Paykel or a Samsung direct drive washing machine, there is no transmission like there used to be back in the old days. Transmission basically had electric motor that turned the belt, that turned some gears, which turned the transmission and washed your clothes back and forth, agitated the soapy water in your clothes. And when those motors burn out or the transmission wore out, you'd either have a junk or you go to your local repairman and buy a new transmission, and he'd either put it in or you put it in. Nowadays, it ain't like that. You have direct drive washing machines that have a huge, powerful DC, pulse DC stator motor in there that right out of the gate, without any modifications, is capable of producing electricity. So it's a built-in generator. Hook that thing up to a wind turbine, put you a 1,000-volt, 100-amp bridge rectifier across it, and now you got a doggone generator that will, at the very least, charge batteries. One car battery might get you a couple hours worth of use on inverters. 2 car batteries would extend that time. 3 car batteries on down the line. The more batteries you have, the larger battery bank, the more time you have. And so if you got a massive battery bank, then you can use something as simple as 145-watt solar panel to keep them charged. It's not rocket science, but you'd think it was. And for every light bulb, like I said, if every light bulb you take off the grid, that's more money in your pocket. Less money in the system's pocket. They don't like that. And so they send people out there to call people like me stupid. And I'm only human. I get frustrated. And at some point, guys like me just get tired and walk away. And I think that's what they want. They want guys like me just to shut up and go away. I may not be the smartest man on the planet, but I'm not the stupidest either. And I don't think we have an energy crisis. We got a common sense crisis. We got an educational crisis. When we're 28th, according to the numbers in education, then that tells me somebody ain't paying attention in science, or they ain't even being taught science. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you have access to this internet, you have access to the vast sum of all man's knowledge, like my friend Steve says all the time. And with that knowledge, if you're willing to do something with it, you can troubleshoot and figure things out. You can find out the truth about dangers and safeties and things to avoid and not. You can think of ways to literally clean up your environment and work in harmony with nature. We see the type of energy that I'm talking about every single day in this world. Every single day without fail, somewhere on this planet is a bolt of lightning flying across the sky. Makes a massive crackling sound as that energy disperses into the atmosphere, and you hear the big old thunderclap. So it's not only producing high voltage, it's producing plasma, high heat, and it's actually producing a massive acoustic wave that literally shakes the earth and ground. That's a lot of power. And if you understand what Tesla was trying to show everybody, you can literally harness that power. A lot of you have done it without even knowing you did it. Rubbing your feet on the carpet and then walking over and touching your brother's ear and sending out a jolt through his ear. Voltage is pressure, and pressure is what gets work done. Once you understand that, and you understand the way that energy moves, with high voltage you can literally move a lot of power in a short amount of time. Once you get that power moved to the other side, and if you understand how to store that power long enough to bring that power back down to usable, safe frequency, that, like overseas they use 50 hertz. Here in the States we use 60 hertz. It's just a speed at which that frequency is going. It's the same exact energy that I'm talking about. It's just the speed. The current flow and all that, if you understand plumbing, then you understand electricity. This world is amazing. It's an incredible thermal electric generator, self-contained biosphere of epic proportions. The volcanoes and the thermal vents basically evaporate water into hydrogen and oxygen, which flows through and produces the pressure in our atmosphere, gives us the air to breathe, gives us our blue skies and our clouds. From that point on, the temperature differences causes rain, comes down, waters the plants, and when we breathe in fresh oxygen, and we breathe out carbon dioxide. And because we have a symbiotic relationship with all the plants on this planet, that carbon gets scrubbed off through a process called photosynthesis that the plant uses to produce sugar for food. And in return, releases fresh oxygen back out into the atmosphere. So everything that's going on in nature is a brilliant piece of engineering by however you think we got it here. And in order to be able to live a decent and healthy life, mankind needs to start learning how to work in perfect harmony with that system. It's as simple as that. I don't know if we're even still. Where'd you go, Lonnie? I'm getting lonely out here. Somebody send me a message and let me know what's going on. I'm just going to keep on talking till something happens. But this feeling I got right now, because we're having little Skype issues, is the same feeling that I got as I'm trying to do my YouTube and my radio show over there on shazizzradio.com. Is that I don't know if anybody's even paying attention. I don't even know if the words coming out of my mouth are even making it to the ears of the minds of the masses out there to try to tell them that you got more power than you think you do. You got the power of the spoken word, you got the power of the pen, you got the power of your actions, you got the power of love. And if you took all that things with your talents and gifts and knowledge that you've acquired, be it research or during your lifetime, and you combine that with the others that out there doing the same thing that really care, you're going to find that you're capable of so much more than you thought. And we can resolve issues in this world. We can shelter the homeless. We can feed the hungry. Now, I'm 51 years old, and I know it don't take no 51 years to resolve starvation in the world. So, where do you go to from there? If somewhere in this world there's a baby sitting in the dirt with flies flying around their face and they're starving, that's on humanity's back. If somewhere in this world there's somebody who wants a home that can't get a home, that's on humanity's back. If we're polluting the air that we need to breathe and we're killing off our fish, that's on humanity's back. I'm saying right now we have an opportunity as a human race to literally resolve all the issues of the world. We got to stop the knuckleheads from going over bombing foreign countries. We got to stop the knuckleheads dumping crud into the ocean. We got to raise our voices up higher than we've ever raised them up in the history of time. You know, some people believe that there might have been societies before now that got so advanced that they destroyed themselves. Personally, if that was the case, I'd like to not repeat that mistake. And I'd like to take all the information that I've learned throughout my entire life and do something to help humanity. So, I guess I don't know. Trying to find out whether or not I'm talking to myself or I'm talking to you. Oh, you just gotta love technology, man. I don't want to ruin her your show, so I kept on talking just in case. But even if I'm saying it to myself, it makes just as much sense as trying to shout it to the world. And I feel the urgency, just like so many people around this world feel the urgency that something ain't right. Gotta fix it. Gotta find a way to fix it. And I think that if we could get enough people together, we could fix it. Spend less time protesting and spend more time fixing. Resolving issues. So apparently I'm still on there, so apologize for all the technical difficulties. They're trying to get that resolved. And so I'll just keep on saying what I'm saying. There's a lot of networks out there, folks. A lot of alternative media networks out there. Some of them use their deal responsibly, and some of them use them irresponsibly. Knowledge is power, but you got to use knowledge with truth. And if there's somebody out there trying to sell you some sort of hoodoo voodoo version of a free energy device, I'm telling you, be skeptical. Be skeptical of me until you verify the information that I'm sharing with you. Because I don't want to do nobody wrong. I just see a different way to use energy than what the standard model is. And I'm trying to share that with people. Sometimes I catch a lot of guff because of it. But I'm not going to stop. I mean, even if I weren't doing any more YouTube channels, I'm still going to keep on researching and sharing information with people. And for those of you that's out there as actual producers on YouTube, you're not going to get rich off of it unless you get like trillions of subscribers and all that. So it's not making me any money. It's not making, if I set out to get famous, I failed. I got 7,765 subscribers. I don't even know how many of them are even real. Might have just been fly-by-nighters or something like that. I don't know. But nonetheless, the information's still out there. I put that plasma water heater video out recently. And it works. Had I not accidentally broke it trying to reseal it, I wouldn't be having to build another one now. But nonetheless, I'll get it done. And I'll share that information with people. Completely different way to use energy. If you go watch that video and you get some ideas and you're inspired by that video, then try to build one yourself. Test it out. Hold my feet to the fire on what I say on any of the energy things that I talk about. It's not gonna match up to the school book, I guarantee you that. None of my ideas match up to the school book as far as moving forward in science. Because they always want to put limitations on you at school. Tell you can't do this, you can't do that. They mocked and ridiculed Orville and Wilbur Wright, said you'd never be able to fly. Now we got jet engines. We got planes that will break the sound barrier. You know, they pretty much did Tesla wrong, because what Tesla tried to do for the world, they weren't having that part of it. That's why you'll see a picture of Tesla up on my YouTube channel, because I'm inspired by what he wanted to do for the world. And his research was brilliant. And just like me, he wasn't perfect. None of us are. But he had his heart in the right place. As far as trying to end wars and all that by giving people free, clean, alternative energy. If you want to test the truth of the governments out there and representation, go back and look at some of the old news broadcasts to the first time that they said that we had global warming / climate change. Now it's man-made disruption or whatever it's going to be next week when the math don't add up. And look how long they've been talking about the same thing. Go back even farther and check out about when they talked about there was a hole in the ozone layer. 98% of all the people out there have no idea how ozone's even created. But once they said there was a hole in the ozone layer, the panic went out. They made a lot of money on Freon, updated Freon, and plastic squirt bottles for hairspray. That's the way they do it. Scare the living tar out of everybody and his brother and sell a product. Y2K sold a lot of generators, food stocks, and every doggone conflict out there, war, rumors of war, sells bullets and guns and medical supplies and everything under the sun. War is profitable. Fear is profitable. I'm talking to the world and I'm telling you that there is an alternative that is within our grasp. We have access right now to the vast sum of all man's knowledge. We have an opportunity to talk with one another across the international borders and discuss ideas and solutions. And for people to come out there and discourage that and still claim to be for the planet, actions speak a whole lot louder than words, folks. But words are powerful. And if you tell somebody they're stupid long enough, they might just start believing it. But if you reach out there with that voice and you raise somebody up to the highest points of heaven and motivate them and let them know that they, each and every one, are valuable, that's the world, that's the step forward to the world that we're all looking for. That's our chance. Our chance to lay down those stones that our future kids are going to be walking on. Had I been around when nuclear industry come around, I'd have pointed out all the things that I've been saying all along. Don't make no sense to use this highly refined radioactive material to boil water, when you could take something as simple as a coal-fired power plant and you can filter that exhaust out to such an extreme and get a perfect burn on it and never even pollute. It's not beyond the realms of physics. It's not beyond the realms of engineering. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. But call it laziness or stupidity. Call it whatever you want. But they still, to this day, haven't done it. They still haven't resolved the environmental concerns of the masses.